Santo Gee.
What's good, man?
Let's start off with your name, man. Santo Gee. Is that your hood name, or is that a name that you just came up with recently?
Nah, Santo Gee, it comes from, my brother is actually Big Saint. So growing up, everyone, as far as like all the homies, they always used to call me Lil Saint. Once I got put onto the neighborhood, I chose a different name. They call me Smokey from Inglewood 13. But once I started doing my YouTube stuff, I went back to my family nickname, which was Lil Saint, Santo Gee.
Okay.
That's where Santo Gee comes from, you know what I mean? And the G is pretty much from my last name, you know?
Oh,
Garcia, I'm a G, you know what I mean?
I was going to say Gangsta Saint.
Nah, pretty much, you know what I mean? Miguel Santo Gee, Miguel Santo Garcia, you know what I mean? That's where the G comes from.
Okay. Let's start off with where did you grow up at?
I grew up right here on the Hyde Park side of Inglewood, to be specific, on Centinela and Stepney Street. It's literally like 2 blocks away from where we at right now.
Okay. And where are we right now?
Right now, we're right here at Edward Vincent Jr. Park, but if you're an Inglewood native, if you've been in Inglewood your whole life, this is Centinela Park.
What do you call it today?
Today, I still say Centinela Park. When I hit you up, what I tell you, Centinela Park, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't even know. I know Vincent is in it.
Yeah.
But it's just, I can't remember that name.
Yeah.
It's
It's always gonna be Centinela Park, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's gonna be a long time before they stop saying Centinela Park.
For sure, for sure.
Okay, so how far from where we're at right now did you grow up?
Like 2 blocks. I used to be at this park daily as a teenager. First thing, as soon as I wake up, hit the grill, get ready, just come straight to the park, you know what I mean? And just run around, chill with the homies. We got the stone benches back here. We got the pool. Now they got a skate park. But back then, they always had the basketball courts, the pool, and it's just a big, beautiful park, you know what I mean? So that's where it was at back then.
And what school did you start going to as a little kid?
So I attended Centinela Elementary School, and if you go inside their office, they have pictures of all the years. I believe mine was 2001. It was the early 2000s. You'll see my picture up there.
It's still there?
It's still there, yup. Till this day, it's still there. You're gonna go and you'll see me. Yeah, I remember Miss O'Neill. Shout out Miss O'Neill, Miss Dermola. And if you guys don't know, shout out Tiffany Cambridge. That's actually, she ended up getting engaged to the game, and she has like 2 kids with the game. That was my 3rd grade teacher right there. Shout out Tiffany Cambridge, man.
Oh, okay. So who was your favorite teacher?
Her, Miss Cambridge.
How come?
She was just cool. Like, she was a teacher that I can honestly say, like, cause I'm not gonna lie, when I started smoking and all that was actually in the 3rd grade in her class. And I don't know if she just seen it. She seen something in me to the point where she like tried to get me into some extracurricular activities. And she just like guided me a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, that's one teacher, her and Miss O'Neill are the 2 teachers that I can say stick to my mind when I think about Centinela, you know?
And what made you start wanting to smoke in elementary school?
Just seeing my older brother. Like I said, I got an older brother. He's 5 years older than me. So, like I said, I don't have a father, you know what I mean? My father passed away before I was even born. So, to me, he was that male role model. So, I'll try to mimic whatever I see him doing, you know?
Okay. And then after elementary school, where did life head you to next?
After elementary, I went to La Tijera Middle School. It's on La Cienega and La Tijera. And I want to say right there, that's pretty much when there was a change, you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys remember this. Once you hit middle school, there's a such thing as scrub day. So I just remember people trying to pick on me, and then it just created a beast, you know, because once I seen that whenever I press back, they like back down, I was, I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna be bullied on. If anything, I'm gonna be the bully type stuff. You know what I mean? So that's when like a little shift happened as far as like in my mentality and just the way I carried myself, you know?
Now, is the older brother that you just mentioned, was he an influence on you in terms of the streets? Was he also affiliated, involved?
My brother, he's always been a hustler. He's always been making his money. But back then, like around that time, as far as I could remember, I would remember, you know what I mean? Like the homies posted on the block and everything, hit ups with his name and everything, you know? And then he ended up having a baby, and it kind of took him from the street life to where he was focused on hustling. And then that's when, because before he had a baby, he was out in the street. So whenever I come around, he'll kick me out. Like, hey, go home, go home. Then once he had a baby, he kind of stepped back. So then that's when I started going in more, you know? So to answer your question, my brother, he's not from the hood. He kicked it with the homies and all that, but before he made that step, he ended up having a kid, and that's what made him just take a different route. And that's when I stepped in and pretty much got put on. And I can remember till this day, the day that I got put on, the older homies were talking to me, and I told them, you know what I mean, who my brother was and all that, and they still, I remember the homie told me like, man, your brother should be here, not you, you know? But I just told him like, hey, you know what, like, he's doing his thing, he got his family, like, this me, you know, like, I'm gonna take over now, you know what I mean?
So when did you first started becoming aware of Inglewood 13 as a youth? Does it take you back to elementary, or you weren't really paying attention to it that young?
That young, elementary, I wasn't really paying attention to it, to be honest. You know, like I said, it wasn't until I hit middle school, and like I said, you know, at first, I'm not gonna lie, you know what I mean? At first, people used to bully me, you know what I mean? They used to try to bully me. And then once I started pressing back and I started seeing like, hey, you know, they just all bark, you know what I mean? And when you press back, like, they just fall back. So I want to say that's when I started like really focusing on it. At first, it started with me and a couple of the homies. We created a little tagging crew. It's not even like big or nothing like that, but it was just us. We created MIC, Mexicans in Control. And we started, I want to say that only lasted like a couple of weeks. And then it was me and two of the homies that had older brothers already from the hood. They were like, hey, you know, let's bring Hyde Park back. Like, what? Like, let's bring Hyde Park back. Like, we live on the Hyde Park side. I know back then, the older homies were banging Hyde Park, and then from Hyde Park, they ended up getting put onto the hood. So at the time, we was too young, you know what I mean, to even kick it with the older homies and stuff like that. So for, I want to say, like a year or two, we was just banging Hyde Park locals, and it ain't no gang or anything like that, you know what I mean? It's just like a little crew, which is pretty much future Inglewood 13, you know what I mean? So I want to say middle school, for those 2 years, we was just banging Hyde Park, you know what I mean? Chilling right here, writing on the walls, HXP, you know what I mean? And so back then, if you ever seen HXP on the walls and stuff like that on this side, more than likely it was me and a couple of the homies, you know what I mean?
Now, when you said bring back Hyde Park, what do you mean by that? Did it exist at some point and died out, or explain that?
Yeah, well, this is all, at the time, like I said, it was me and two homies, you know what I mean? They were talking about how some of my older homies that grew up on the Hyde Park side, because Inglewood is broken down to two sides. Back then, it was the Hyde Park side and the Cedar side. Shout out all the homies from Hyde Park, all the homies from Cedar. But back then, it was the Hyde Park side and the Cedar side. Hyde Park was like a little crew, and Cedar Street was like a little crew. And pretty much, you would bang that. Once we got deep enough and stuff like that, we would have a meeting with the homies, and homies will get put on the hood. pretty much graduate into the hood, and some will be like, hey, you know what, it's not for me, and they'll step back. But that's where, I mean, like, bring it back, because it's always been, the hood stories, like, oh, this and that. And that was just something that was created on the Hyde Park side, and that we pretty much try to recreate ourselves, you know what I mean?
Now, during them years, who did Inglewood 13 have beef with when you first got on?
When I first got on, at that time, it was, during my time, it was Lennox. It was the hood with Lennox, and then it was the hood with NHP, Queen Street, Culver City, but Culver City not as much. Culver City, that war was honestly the generation before me. My generation, I could say, was Lennox, NHP, Queen Street, and then once I ended up getting busted, a couple of other different hoods, you know what I mean? But as far as like me being out here, like getting chased, getting hemmed up, is Lennox, NHP, and Queen Street.
What's up with another neighborhood called Tepa? Were you guys cool with them?
Tepa, to be honest, at that time, I don't know if it was just like up in the air pretty much, you know? I can't say that I ever ran into any of them and that we ever had friction, but who's to say, you know what I mean, at that point in time, if we was to see each other, what would happen, you know what I mean? I can't say that it would be peaceful or that it wouldn't, you know what I mean? No. It was up in the air, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think there's ever been no bloodshed.
Okay, so in middle school, you become full-fledged Inglewood 13.
No, I didn't become full-fledged till high school.
Okay.
High school, yeah.
So let's go into that. Your middle school goes to 8th grade?
Yeah, to 8th grade.
Okay, so you graduate from there, or I don't know if you graduated or not. Did you graduate?
Yeah, I graduated from there.
Okay, before we talk about high school, what was your family life like? Break down your family situation at that time during the 8th grade.
My family situation is me. I got an older brother that's 5 years older than me. I got an older sister that's 2 years older than me. And then I got a younger sister that's, I want to say 8 years younger than me. No, 7. She's 7 years younger than me. She was born 98, I was born 91.
And of course, a mom?
My mom. And at that time, I did have a stepdad growing up. But like around that time, around middle school and stuff, like there was little, you know what I mean? My mom ended up separating from him, and it was pretty much just my mom's. That's what gave me all the free time. Mom's working 2 jobs, you know what I mean, to try to maintain, and no one at home, you know what I'm saying? So pretty much just us.
How was the stepdad to you and the family while he was around?
He was cool, you know what I mean? He was cool. He tried, you know what I'm saying? I can't say that we ever like bonded and clicked like that. The only times that I can say that we ever like kicked it, and I was just thinking about this driving over here, you know what I mean? And rest in peace him, you know what I mean? But the only times that we ever bonded and kicked it, to be honest, would be like when I was like 12, 13, 14, he would buy me a tall can. Like, hey, tell my mom we're gonna go run errands. He'll buy me a tall can and hey, don't tell your mom. Just drinking a tall can, that was our bonding time. Me and him drinking tall cans together, you know what I mean?
And do you have any kids?
Yeah.
How many do you have?
Me, I have 4. I have 2 stepkids. One's 18, one's 16. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I have an 18-month-old son.
What do you think about having a tall can with a young kid? Is that more common than we expect, or do you think you had a rare stepdad?
I think, I had a rare stepdad. It's not as, I wouldn't do that with my son, you know what I mean? Not at that age. But my family, like my brothers and sisters, we're first generation, like born here, you know what I'm saying? My mom's came from Mexico. My stepdad here came from Salvador, you know what I mean? And he was in the guerrilla over there and all that. So like their upbringing is different, you know what I mean? Now looking at it back, nah, I wouldn't do that, you know? But at the time, it was normal,
Would you consider your stepdad paisa?
Yeah, full-fledged. Yeah, he was a bison.
Okay, so that might be something more cultural tied into paisa living. Just having beers with people that are underage is not thought of it that they're underage.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like in their mentality, the old school way, right? Once you're a teenager, you're a man, pretty much. You know what I mean? I think that's what their mentality's at,
Did you, after that, in future years, did you ever have any problems with alcohol and drugs?
Nah, not with alcohol. In the system, later on, a little problem with opiates, but that was just off of just having it there, you know what I mean?
Okay, so by the time you go to the 9th grade, your stepfather is already out the house?
Yeah.
Okay, and at what point do you decide that you want to fully embrace Inglewood 13?
I want to say, like, high school, the beginning of high school, like my freshman year. Yeah.
And what were your biggest influences?
To me, my biggest influences was the homies. Where I grew up on Stepney and Centinela, pretty much every day around that time, like once I was already like in high school and stuff like that, I would just walk out to the front of my pad, and I'm not even lying, trying to exaggerate for the camera or anything like that, but there was 10, 15, 20 homies deep on the block daily. I'm talking about every day. So to me, like, I would see them right there chilling, drinking, and my homies had money. They'll pull up whips, rims, everything. So to me, that was my influence, like, damn, I want to be that,
So we're talking about the early 2000s, like 2005, 6, 7?
Yep.
Okay. Now, can you describe the racial demographics of the block that you used to see the homies on in terms of black, Latino, white?
Back then, at least that time, right, it was 50-50, 50% blacks, 50% Hispanics. Post up to the block, at least on Stepney block, you know what I mean? Like I said, we'll be right there chilling. Shout out Brim from CPF. He'll be down the block. He grew up down the block from us, and he used to be right there chilling with us, you know what I mean? Back then, you used to come to this park. At the bottom of the park, you take this street up, you see nothing but the homies from CPF and Inglewood family. Then you go towards the basketball courts, you'll see nothing but homies. All coexisting, you know what I mean? And we'll even give each other a heads up. Hey, so-and-so's over here. Hey, so-and-so's over there. You know what I mean? So back then, it wasn't how people make it out to be,
But in the 1990s, Inglewood was known for having clashes at the high schools. I guess this would have been before you got to high school. A lot of clashes between blacks and Latinos, especially around Cinco de Mayo and around Black History Month. When you was in high school, did that actually still continue, or was that kind of like not a big thing anymore?
At that point in time, to be honest, it wasn't a big thing like that no more. Although I did get kicked out from Inglewood High. It was like a little rumble between some of the homies and some blacks, but it was just the homie getting down. The homie was getting down with a black. The black was getting the best of him, and then his brother jumped in, and it just created a big thing. But like, as far as like, cause I remember seeing that on the news, you know what I mean? As far as like the big old riots and stuff like that, and then interviewing people and then people talking stuff. I can't say it was as bad as that. It was more gang related than anything. Not just, oh, I don't like you because of your race. Now
you said the black guy was getting the best of the homie. Do you find that that's pretty typical, being that blacks are very athletic, blacks are great at sports, blacks excel in lots of physical things? Mm-hmm. In your experience, does that mean that they're also going to be better fighters most of the time?
I would say they have the advantage, you know what I mean? They got the size and they got the advantage, you know what I mean? But you know us, we know we got that Mexican heart in us. So I think it's just up to, the fight inside the dog, you know what I mean? Like the person, you know what I mean? Whoever's going at it at that time. But yeah, of course, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie. There's times where I'd be like, oh man, I don't know if I could take this dude, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, you know?
I've noticed in professional fighting, most of the great Mexican fighters are from Mexico.
Yeah.
Not too many Mexican Americans or first generation, second generation Mexicans
Yeah.
are great fighters.
For
You
sure.
know what I mean?
For
Have you
sure.
ever looked at it like that?
Now that you mention it, something like that. Yeah.
You think of all your great Mexican fighters. I
Yeah,
bet you
they've
90%
all
of
been
them-
for the motherland, yeah.
Yeah.
They've all been. I could say the only one been Oscar, but even him, he
Oh,
was,
yeah.
yeah.
I think Oscar was born
Yeah, Oscar
here, right?
was born here, yeah, because he went to the Olympics with
Yeah.
USA and all that.
Yeah, he
Yep.
represented the U.S. But there's a lot of conversation about fighting and who's more skillful when it comes to black and Mexicans, especially when prison
Yeah,
in the streets.
For sure.
And a lot of blacks will say, hey, once the Mexicans got the numbers, then they feel that they can take advantage.
For
But
sure.
if it's equal amount of people, the blacks say that they got that every single time. What's your experience, being on the streets and in prison?
I would say, again, it's up to the individuals, you know what I mean? Because if you were, say you're in a dorm, you're in a certain dorm, right? And you got like 20, 30 homies, and you got like 50, 60 blacks, right? If that crowd ain't really on that mind, then more than likely, you know what I mean, they'll probably bite their tongue and deal with it or whatever. But if you got some solid ones right there, they're not gonna put up with it, regardless of the numbers, regardless of who's there or whatever, they're just gonna take care of business. So I would say it's just up to the individuals that are there.
Okay. Now, in your high school years, what was the relationship between the blacks and Latinos during your era, for the most part?
For the most part, like I said, for the most part, I can't say that there was a lot of racial tension like that. I'll be lying to you guys if I said I did. I was always the class clown. And I'm not gonna lie, you know what I mean? I've always had black females like on me, like trying to holler at me, you know what I mean? And I've always been cool with blacks, you know what I mean? Like right there clowning and all that. It was to the point that some of the black females that I would be talking to, they used to be like, man, you sure you're not half black? Like straight up, like I've always been like, you know what I mean? A clown, you know what I mean? Like I've always been, if you're in a room with me, you're gonna notice me, you know what I mean? Put it like that.
Now, there's this belief that if a black guy messes around with a Mexican girl, the Mexican homies are going to be more offended than if a Mexican guy messes around with a black girl. The black guys won't trip as much. Like they're more open and more embracing. What's your experience dealing with, when it comes to relationships?
When it comes to that,
Yeah.
I would say, and it's weird, but it is kind of like that. If you really think about it, I don't know why, but I feel like maybe they're like, okay, if it's a dude getting a black girl, like, okay, we got one. But it's like if it's a black dude getting a Latina woman, they're like, oh, they got one on us type. That's the only way I could put it, you know what I mean? Maybe they're viewing it like that.
But who gets more offended?
It depends. It depends. Like if we're raised here and you're with the times, it's not gonna be that bad. But like, for instance, I know a lefty gunplay was getting a lot of heat for what he said, that he wouldn't let his daughter date a black dude or whatever, that he would be tripping. A lot of Latinos and a lot of blacks, because I touched on it, and you could read my comments. They said it. Like, some people are like, hey, I agree. Some people were like, hey, it's true. Like I said, me personally, man, it's all over if she's well taken care of, if they have good intentions, if I know she's gonna be good, you know what I mean? It's all about love and protection, you know what I mean? If the person that's with my daughter can protect her and is really loving her and is not treating her bad, that's all that matters to me. But like I said, for people that come from that old school, their parents, like our ways of growing up, I'm pretty sure if I was to bring my grandma, rest in peace now, but I'm pretty sure if my grandma, rest in peace, was to see me with a black female, like, hey, grandma, like, she'll accept it because she loves me, but I'm pretty sure the expression at first is gonna be like, whoa, you know? But like I said, that's just because from where they come from, you know what I mean? Us now, growing up here, like I said, our mentality is different.
Now, you mentioned Lefty Gunplay. He's from the SGV, where there's not a whole lot of black people living. From your perspective, growing up in Inglewood, you're around a whole lot of black people. Yeah. So your perspective and the Lefty Gunplay's perspective, even though you're both Mexican, is completely different.
Yeah,
right?
The demographic is way different, of course. Yeah, it's not common to them. You know what I mean? Versus right here in Inglewood, anywhere you go, you're gonna run into an interracial couple, and that's just facts. Anywhere you go, you know what I mean? So I feel like that maybe does have a lot key factors that plays into it, you know?
Now, did you get to graduate from high school? Did you make it through high school without getting caught up in any trouble, or did you end up hitting the halls at any point in time?
Actually, I don't know if I stopped going to school after that little rumble. They kicked me out and I started getting home studies. So right after that, I ended up catching a case. I ended up catching an attempted murder case, and I ended up going to the halls. And I fought that for 2 years. I ended up getting a deal for 10 years.
Oh, okay. So this is while you're high school age.
Yeah, I was 16 when I caught that case.
Okay. And is there anything that you could tell us about it? Where were you at? What city were you in? How'd you get caught? Did anyone tell on you? Things of that sort.
Yep. Around that time, I got busted in March of 2008. Around that time, there was pretty much a war going on right here in the city, you know what I mean? All of it is well documented, you know what I mean? But there was a war going on in the city, and pretty much had just jumped off the porch, so had to handle some business, and I ended up getting told on, you know what I mean? One of my co-defendants told on me.
What was that feeling like?
I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, you know what I mean, to be honest. And just tell you a little quick story, right? So we end up doing that, whatever. They get two of my homies. Rest in peace, my homeboy Necio. He ends up keeping it solid, and he's in the county. One of them bails out. The one that bailed out is the one that told on me. So he bails out, and he lives right across the street from me, right down the block on Stepney. He lived right across the street. So I end up seeing him. I go to the homie's house. I actually got dropped off by my mom's at the homie's pad, because the homie texted me like, hey, he's here. Like, what? Yeah, he said he bailed out. Like, what? So I go over there. Long story short, we're kicking it, and we end up going to a hood meeting. As soon as I get there, one of the homies comes up to me. He's like, hey, I just got a call from the homie in there, you know? He said that homeboy is telling. He's like, hey, this is what the homie Necio pretty much told the homie that's telling me. He's like, hey, dile al Smoke que se pele vacas, cause el Wood tiró rata. It's pretty much, hey, tell Smoke to jam because Wood told. So he's telling me this, and as I'm walking up, homeboy went to go park the car. So he's telling me this, and homeboy's walking up behind me. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he's saying that homeboy's telling on you. Like, what? Homeboy walks up, so he just gets quiet. I'm like, hey, like, chill, you know what I mean? Chill. Boom. Chill for a little bit. We end up bouncing. He drops me off. I end up getting picked up a couple days later. You know what I mean?
How did that person have that information that such and such was telling?
He had a lawyer. He had a lawyer, and his lawyer pretty much told him, you know what I mean? Because homeboy, anytime you make any statements, you know what I mean? If you think you're gonna tell on someone and it's not gonna come out, like you're not all there, you know what I'm saying? Because anytime you make any statement, it's in paperwork, in black and white. So pretty much he had the black and white, and I didn't want to believe it, you know what I mean? To be honest, I didn't want to believe it. It wasn't until I got picked up and my lawyer showed me the paperwork that I was like, wow, like he really did that.
Now, did this person also get arrested and given a deal or something? Or did they never go to jail?
He never went to jail after that. He ended up getting 5 years probation, 5 years joint suspension.
Now, was he involved in the case just as much as you were, or almost as much as you were?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
How do you feel about that? Like, you end up getting 10 years almost,
Yeah.
and he ends up walking.
I was hurt, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie, I was hurt, you know what I mean? Because, like I said, to me, that individual right there, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure he's gonna watch this, you know what I mean? Like, straight up, you was like my older brother, dog, you know what I mean? Like, straight up. Like, to me, he was like my older brother. Like, my older brother was doing his thing, so he lived right across the street, so every day I woke up, like, what's up, G? Call each other side by side, you know? So, to me, it just hurt. Like, I followed him down this path, and then you gonna do that? Like, it hurt, you know what I mean? No, it hurt.
Because, did you take a deal?
Yeah, I took a deal.
Okay, so he never had to come to court or testify or anything?
No. He was there at court. Like, I would see him every court day. He wouldn't even look at me. But yeah, he didn't get up and testify because I ended up taking a deal.
When he was there in court, he was there in street clothes, free, or was he in custody?
Nah, he was free. Yup.
Okay. Now, did you ever get to have a conversation with him after
Nah.
you found out?
Nah.
To this day?
Till this day, yup. And you know what's crazy is that, like, the day after that they picked me up, he went and knocked on my house door. Not even knowing that they had picked me up already. Like, he thought I was still out or something. He went and knocked on my house door, and he asked my mom for my brother. He wanted to talk to my brother. I don't know for what, but he went and knocked on my mom's door, like, straight up.
Do you think he did that maybe to throw you guys off and figure out he was telling?
I think so.
Because he could say, if I was telling, why would I go to their house? You know, something, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Could have been some ulterior motives right there, you know? For real.
Okay. And what were they trying to give you in terms of a sentence, and what did you ended up pleading to?
Like I said, the initial case was an attempted murder. They were trying to get me for premeditated attempted murder. But I ended up taking a deal for 10 years after fighting it for 2 years. My first deal that they tried to give me was 39 years with 2 strikes. I'm 16 years old. They're talking about 39 years with 2 strikes. And I remember we did the math. My lawyer was like, you'll be out when you're 51. Remember, I looked at my lawyer, I looked at the DA, I'm like, man, fuck you. Like, what the fuck? Like, shove that shit up your ass, like, straight up. Like, 51? 16 years old, I'll be out when I'm 51 with 2 strikes. But then I ended up going from Supreme Court to Superior Court, or I don't know if it's the other way, but I ended up getting a new judge, a new DA, and they ended up, at first it was 12 years. They were trying to give me 12. They came with a deal of 12. It was 4 years for discharge of a firearm, 3 years, no, it was 4 years for assault with a deadly weapon, 3 years for discharge of a firearm, and 5 years for gang enhancement. But I ended up talking to my lawyer, and I told him, like, he ended up telling me, he told me, he was like, look, I'm gonna try to get them to drop the gang enhancement. I'm gonna try to get them to drop the gang enhancement, and that way it only makes it to 7. So I'm like, look, what's the lowest for everything? We did the math. He's like, the lowest for the assault is 2, the lowest for the discharge, which is an enhancement, is 3, and the lowest for the gang enhancement is 5. That adds up to 10. So I'm like, well, look, if they don't want to go for the 7, then go for the 10. And next court date, I went, and he had the good news that they said yeah to the 10, but I had to sign right then and there.
And those were sentences to run consecutive to each other to make it to 10 years.
Yes.
Was there ever any talks to get any of these to run concurrent?
No. I can't say that there was.
Okay. Now, the victim in that case, did he or she ever come to court on you?
No. The victim, they did point me out at first. They pointed me out in a 6-pack, but after that, my lawyer even told me that there was like a case that he had they like tried to hold him back. He was like in the airport trying to leave, you know, like he didn't cooperate with them, you know. He didn't want to cooperate with them.
Even though that person ID'd you and then end up not cooperating to a certain degree, he kind of told on you a little bit, right?
Yeah, pretty much. When he was in the hospital and they first went, he told on me, but then once the case picked up and it progressed, he didn't want no part in it.
Now, let's say he did cooperate and he did come to court. That could have been a longer sentence for you. Right?
Yeah, that would have been life, to be honest. You know,
Yeah.
They had the gun, they had homeboy telling, and then with the victim there, yeah, that would have been for sure life
at least
sentence.
20.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever get to cross paths or converse with the victim in that case at some point?
No, I haven't.
If that person is watching, what would you want to say to him or her?
I would just want to say, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Although what happened, you know what I mean? How can you say it's not personal? But you know what I mean? It was just the time it was, you know what I mean? You know what time it is, you know what I mean? What comes with it, you know what I mean? And just, you know what I mean? I do apologize, you know what I mean? For whatever that's worth, you know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't want that same thing in return, you know? Now, living my family life and all that, looking at it from a different lens, you know what I mean? I wouldn't wish that on nobody, not even my worst enemy.
But some people just look at it, hey, this is part of gangbanging. We know what we signed up for. We all signed our name on that dotted line.
Yeah.
And we all know what comes with it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So most of your gang career, quote unquote, took place in prison.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And by the time you turned 18, even though you were a juvenile when this happened, you're on your way to the state penitentiary.
Yeah, county for like 2-3 months, then to the prison. Yep.
Okay, so they took you from juvenile hall to the
county, and then from county to prison.
What was it? Is there a special section in the county for juveniles?
No. Well, I was already 18 when I went to the county,
Okay.
so you know what I mean? Yeah, I just pretty much.
How long after you turned 18 did they say bye from Silmar?
Till I got sentenced. But the only reason why I stood longer than I turned 18 was because I was taking college courses. I got my GED and then I was taking college courses. So they let me stay and do my college courses. But once I was sentenced, they're like, gotta go.
And the county jail, even though you was there for a short period of time, what was it like for you as probably one of the youngest persons in there at the time,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, for sure. At first, it was a little hard, you know what I mean? Because I'm coming from juvenile hall to where you getting down with your enemies, you know what I mean? Anything goes, and then now I got to abide by a lot of rules. So at first, it was hard, but since I knew that I was just passing by and on my way upstate for X amount of years, I just soaked up game, you know what I mean? I just try to hang around with the homies that I knew had a good head on their shoulders, and I'll just pick up everything, you know, try to learn as much as I can.
Now, you got busted in 2008?
Yeah, 2008.
Now, in 2008, there was actually a TV show called Peacemaker that was covering this part of
I remember
the city.
that. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I believe it was the Queen Streets were involved, and I think they didn't really go into...
He stopped the Inglewood family neighborhood pyro on Queen Street.
Yeah.
I remember he did a meeting. I seen that upstate. Yeah.
I actually just interviewed the guy that was a part of that show, Malik Spellman. That interview dropped, I think last year.
That's
Okay,
dope.
so now you go to the penitentiary. Now, what was your feeling like when you're in the county and you're going to prison? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you anxious? What was going through your mind at that time?
Man, I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I was nervous, anxious, a little bit of everything, you know? I just remember getting picked up by the county bus and then getting dropped off at Chino. And I'm jumping off the bus and I'm, like I said, I'm nervous, a little bit scared, shackled up. And as soon as I jump off the bus, I start walking a little bit. I just hear, Smokey, what's up, my boy? It was the homie Shaggy from AK Locos and the homie Necio from Sanfed yelling out the windows, that's right, eso. So I'm not gonna lie, I went from feeling like all that nervousness and all that, like it kind of went away, like knowing like, cool, I got somebody here, you know? Because I was with both of them in Silmar for 2 years, so it's like, it kind of alleviated that a little bit, you know?
What's AK Locals?
They're out like over there by North Hollywood. They're alley criminal locals. It's not a neighborhood, but it's kind of like a little crew, you know?
Okay, so were you on your way to reception with these guys here?
Yeah, I was on my way to reception and they were already there. In Chino, they were in Madrone. They got like windows facing the intake area. So I guess they were inside the cell reception, you're locked down, you know what I mean? 23/7. So they were just looking, I guess, and they just recognized me. And they just started yelling out my name, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie, like that right there, like
Now,
I can't explain it, you know?
let's talk about what your family was dealing with while you're fighting this case. First, while you're arrested, your family finds out, they got to deal with it. You're fighting it for 2 years. What was your mom's, your brother, your sister? What were they going through? You know, it must have been. We always think of the person that got to go do the time, but also the family's got to deal with the stresses that comes with that too.
For sure, that's a good question too. I would say mom's was just trying to hang in there, you know, trying to be strong. Brother was there, you know what I mean, for whatever we needed. I would say my little sister, you know, I would say my little sister is kind of one of the ones that felt it a lot. Like she was stuck to my hip type. You know what I mean? I used to just, she was 8. She was 8 when I went in. So, you know what I mean? I can't imagine, you know what I mean? An 8-year-old, like, damn, you know, my brother just went in there and he's fighting for his life, you know what I mean? Like, I would say, you know, me, the way I was thinking, I'm young, just got put on the neighborhood, regardless of whatever I was going through, my mentality is just, I'm gonna make a name for myself, you know? So I was just kind of just rolling with it. So yeah, that I would say they kind of were the ones going through it, you know?
Now, being that young, there's no way you understood prison politics, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How quick did you learn it though?
I would say, you know, I'm a type of person, I pick up on things a little quick, you know? And like I said, I knew that I was going upstate, so I'll just soak up game, you know? I can't say I know it all, but I knew what I needed to know to get by, you know?
Were there any other Inglewood Treses in there when you got to either reception or wherever you went after that?
When I was in reception, I crossed paths with the homie Little Bullet. He ended up coming in on a violation. And the only other member that I've ran into is the homie Garfield. Shout out to homie Garfield. And he's actually one of the homies that put me on the neighborhood.
So that was in Chino?
No, in Chino, I ran into Little Bullet. I ran into the homie Garfield and Shafter on MCCF, like later on down the line.
Okay, before we talk about prison, one guy told on your case. Actually, did you have 2 co-defendants?
Yeah, I had 2 co-defendants, yep.
Okay, and the other co-defendant, we didn't really go into his story, but just briefly talk about what happened to him, you know.
Yeah. So like I said, one co-defendant ended up telling, you know what I mean? But my other co-defendant that kept it solid, he ended up pleading out to a dope case that he had pending. He went to Ironwood, did time in Ironwood, kept it solid, and he ended up getting out and got deported. And he ended up getting killed in Guatemala. That's why I say rest in peace to homie Necio. You know what I mean? They ended up taking him away from us over there.
So how much time did he have to? He was on your same case though, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't get as much time as you did.
No, because the witnesses that they had said that they only saw 2 people in the car. So at first, them 2 were busted for it. But once homeboy told, he ended up putting me as the shooter, so they took homeboy out the case. He ended up pleading out to a case he had pending.
But the guy that was telling, wouldn't he have put Necio at the scene of the crime too, so that he could get some time? Or it didn't work that
No,
way?
he did. He did, but the way that they seen it, right, since he had a case pending, and it was just like he got caught with like a gram of coke. They gave him like 2 years for a gram of coke. So they got him, because come on, who gets 2 years for a gram of coke? He could have got a rehab, you know what I mean, or a Prop 36, you know what I mean? But they're like, look, plead out to this 2 years on this, and we'll drop this, because they already knew that they had me, you know?
And he took that deal probably.
Yeah,
with
he took
quickness.
that deal quick. Yeah, he took that deal quick.
Okay, so you found out about what happened to Necio in prison.
Yeah, I was in prison when that happened.
Okay. All right, so now you want to make a name for yourself. How does one make a name for themselves as a Southsider in the CDCR?
You gotta pretty much, you know what I mean, just help out any which way possible. I ended up catching like a whole nother year over pretty much just me trying to make my name. So in there you just stay down, you know what I mean, stay solid. They ask you for a favor, they ask you for anything, man. If you know it's a good call, if you know everything's good and it checks out, man, handle business, you know?
And the politics is almost like you can't say no. It's you do what you're asked to do, right? If you're accepting.
I mean, yeah, if you're trying to earn your name and all that, yeah, you're not gonna say no. Now, can you say no? You can say no. Like, say if you got a visit coming up, you haven't got a visit in like a couple years, you know what I mean? And they about to come, and that's gonna mess up what you got going on. Then they will make an exception, you know. But just know that it's like an unsaid thing, you know, that you can only say no once.
Okay, so after you hit the penitentiary and after you do you go to reception, they basically send you to a prison out of state.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
It was at that time, I guess all level 3s were overpopulated. There was too many people being housed in 3s. So for them to alleviate that, they ended up renting out prisons out of state. So they'll rent out the whole prison and just send nothing but California inmates to those prisons. Same rules and violations, everything still applies, but we're just housed out of state.
So that means Arizona just got a prison sitting there that's empty?
Yep, pretty much.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yep.
What's the transfer like to go from a California prison all the way to Arizona? Did they fly you there on jets?
At first they were doing Con Air. I didn't get the Con Air, I went on a bus. But at first they were doing Con Air. They were flying inmates out because they started with Arizona, Oklahoma, and Mississippi. Those were the 3 main out-of-state facilities for California inmates.
And what happened to getting flown out?
I guess it was costing too much, so they just started doing buses. When I went from Arizona to Oklahoma, it was a 23-hour bus ride. And I'm talking about 23 hours, you're shackled up, and it ain't like the seats have cushion, you know what I mean? It's the plastic seats, like on normal transportation, normal bus, same seats. You're right there handcuffed, and then they put a black box on top of your cuffs so you can't move your wrist.
It
Like
locks your
it locks it, yeah, it locks it. and then they handcuff that to your waist. So it's like you're right there, and then you're shackled at your feet too. And the way they have you, you're in paper jumpsuits. So if you think about it, right, you shackled up with a paper jumpsuit. If you're walking and you overextend, like me, I'm tall. I gotta, you gotta like baby footsteps, because if not, you will get scarred from the handcuffs, from the shackles.
And that's designed that way?
Yeah, I think it's designed that way to make you uncomfortable, to be honest.
Okay. I heard that the bus ride is an unpleasant bus ride.
Yeah.
Who told me that? Who did I interview? Dang, I can't remember who that was that told me you can't even really use the bathroom. But is there a bathroom on the bus?
Man, all right. Trip on this. Y'all gonna trip on this, man. All right, so on the bus, the first thing they would tell you is, look, we got a bathroom in the back. It's just for number one. Ain't no number twos.
Damn.
23 hours. Ain't no number twos. The minute we smell some shit, we're gonna get property because they put our property on the bus, on the bottom. We're gonna get property and start throwing it out. Straight like that. And they would do it too. Like if somebody, like, they're too loud, or say somebody gets into it, like on the bus, they'll pull over and they'll throw property out of the bus. But yeah, 23 hours, you can't take a number two. And then on top of that, the only good thing from those bus rides is that they got us street food. Like in the morning, they got us McDonald's. Then for lunch, they got us Burger King. And then for dinner, they got us Carl's Jr. But you think about it, right? You ain't had street food in a long time. You eat a burger, what you gonna do? It's gonna need to come out, you know what I mean? So it's like, although it was bomb, it was unpleasant, you know what I mean?
So you gotta hold it in for 2
You gotta hold it in, yup.
Damn. Do they warn you ahead of time though, before you get on that bus?
Yeah, when you get on the bus, they tell you, like, no number twos.
But you don't know that.
But prior to getting on the bus, no.
Okay.
Like, say, like, hey, if you need to use the bathroom right now, use it while you're here in the prison, because ain't no number twos on the bus. Yeah, nah, they don't do that.
Okay, so some people might be getting on the bus and need to use it at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the politics is pretty much the same out of state, whether you're in Arizona or Oklahoma. It's all the same, right?
Yeah, it's all the same.
Okay. Now I heard you bump into a famous YouTuber in one of these out-of-state prisons.
Yeah.
You're the second person to tell me that. I was interviewing a guy from Maravilla.
Okay. He ran it.
What's his name? What's my boy's name from Maravilla? Lil Train.
Lil Train?
Lil Train from Maravilla said he bumped into Wes Watson.
Yeah.
And he kind of had a negative story.
Okay.
But your experience with Wes Watson is quite different.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was actually in the building with Wes Watson. And this was, if you guys look up North Fork Correctional Facility, this was after there was a big riot between the homies and the blacks in that facility. This was probably like a few months after that. We were on lockdown, and the only people that were able to be out there was the whites. So I was in Bravo South with Wes Watson. He was on the top tier with me. And every day when he'll come out to day room, he'll come to my cell. He would always have bud. He'll come to my cell with like little bundles, like, hey, here, bundle it up into this, into that. And then he'll be like, hey, keep a little stick, a little leño, a stick. That's what we call a joint in there. He's like, keep a little stick for yourself, and keep a little stick for myself. But he'll always be right there chopping it up with me in the cell. And he was always respectful, you know what I mean? He wasn't as loud and as wild as he is now, you know what I mean? Like, I look at him now and I hardly recognize the person that I was with back then, But as far as me doing time with him, he was always cool, respectful. He wasn't all extra out like that. I did see him get down one time when we were in the gym. He got into it with the wood that had the block right there, Bravo South, Bam Bam. I don't know where Bam Bam was from, but he ended up getting into it with him in the gym, and they started locking it up right there in the gym. Boop, 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 boop. both of them were little stocky fools, so they were getting it for a cool minute too. To the point the staffs that were there at the time seen them and they were just like, let them get it, because it was a one-on-one, you know. After they were done, I had on 2 shirts. I took off a shirt and gave it to Wes, like, here, you know what I mean? His nose was leaking. He wasn't messed up and all that, but his nose was leaking, you know what I mean?
So it was basically a tie, that fight?
Yeah, I would say it was a tie.
And I think you described Bam Bam as one of the bullies on the yard.
Yeah, Bam Bam was a bully. Bam Bam was a
what that
bully.
means. What does a bully do on the yard?
Shoot, he was just one of those, like, you know, you have people that are like always messing around, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you have that homie where you're walking and try to trip you, or they give you the dead leg and stuff like that. He was one of those, like, or like choking people out. You're sitting down, he comes from the back, like starts. He was just a fool like that, you know what I mean? So it has a little something to do with that, you know?
He wasn't from LA though.
No, he wasn't from LA.
Okay. So overall, I guess Wes Watson, was a solid convict.
Yeah, when I was with him, he always, like I said, he was respectful, and I can't say anything negative about the man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he wasn't all extra like he is now, but as far as me having anything negative, or, man, salute, you know what I mean? That's all I can say. And I can only speak from my own experiences, because every time I talk about Wes Watson, I get a lot of people, hey this, hey that, he's telling lies. What he says, what stories he says, that's beyond me. I can only tell you my experience with the man, you know?
Yeah, I heard Dubs say he's always doing negative reactions
Yeah.
to Wes Watson. Did you ever bump into Dubs in prison?
No, I
Okay.
never ran into dogs.
No, I heard that the food is a little bit better in Arizona and Oklahoma than it is in the CDCR. Is that true? The food. Talk about the food.
I would say so, just because out there, it's actually, I don't know. There was a time where they were giving us fake meat. So I can't say it was better. I can't say it was better. There was certain parts, certain meals. The only thing I could say that why it was better is because of the store and stuff like that. The prices were a little bit better and stuff like that. But nah, the food, just think about it. If California made shortcuts, now we're being housed in another state. You think they're gonna care about us that are from another state more than them? Nah.
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay. Now you talked about there was a riot between the Southerners and the blacks.
Yes, sir.
What was that all about, and why do these riots even exist in the first place?
That one, to be honest, it's not like if there was any type of racial tension or anything like that. It was just, there was an other and a black getting down in the chow hall. They were getting down like right in the chow line. And as they were getting down, homeboy swung, overextended, homeboy ducked, and he ended up hitting a homie behind him. Accident. And then that's what just, boom, created everything, you know what I mean?
Okay. Now, at some point, you come back to California prison, and let's talk about just coming back to either New Corcoran or Centinela after spending years out of state. Now
Yep.
you're back in California. What's the difference now?
Man, so they ended up doing a big system point change, and I ended up dropping to a level 2. So they brought me to the Shafter MCCF, and it was lovely. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of freedom, but I ended up. I was waiting for that.
Okay.
Shoot. That's how you know you in the hood.
Yeah.
I had a family member move to Texas, like out in the country. They're like, man, I can't do it. It's too quiet.
I might have to get an Uber for my wife. So she's texting
Yep.
me.
You're good. You're good.
That's her car.
Oh, okay. You're good.
So let me just see before we
Yep. Go ahead.
before we talk about the difference coming back. Let me just call her up real quick
Yep. Do your thing.
because she's gonna be mad at me for
I feel it. That comes first, man.
for
I always like to say, happy wife, happy life, man.
So you did all this time out of state, and now you end up coming back to California.
Yeah.
So what was that like to be back on a California yard? Because I'm sure that's like the weather's different.
Yeah.
You know, just it smells different. It's a different vibe, right?
Man, I was happy. Once they told me I was coming back to Cali, I was happy. Got on my Facebook, making posts like, hey, I'm going back to Cali. I remember I posted I quoted the Biggie song, the I'm going back to Cali, Cali. I remember I wrote that and sent it out. Man, I was just looking forward to seeing the family. I hadn't seen my family in like 4 years, you know what I mean? So I was just looking forward to that.
Now, what was the what's the justification to send you out of state for whatever reasons they're trying to save money, and then to bring you back? What is that all about?
They did a point system change, and to be honest, I think the only reason why they did that is because there was a lot of people suing. There was a lot of people suing them because during that riot, there was level 2 inmates, level 3 inmates, and there was even people with level 4 points that were in that prison. Because it was said like once you got sent out of state, you were pretty much stuck. So once the riot happened, they started getting a lawsuit. That's when they really started focusing on your points. And if you were a certain amount of points, you had to get shipped out. So that was the only reason to avoid them having to pay more, I guess, to avoid the audit.
So, how did you learn about people actually filing lawsuits?
I learned that after the fact. I ended up getting a paper. I believe everybody that was there, we ended up, you got a paper like if you wanted to be part of the lawsuit and all that. I never, you know what I mean? I just ignored it.
Now let's talk about the hunger strike, 2013.
Yep.
Where were you at during the hunger strike, and what got that ball rolling?
Pretty much, I was in Oklahoma. I was actually right there with Wes Watson. That was like around that time. And the hunger strike, I believe from what we were told was pretty much all the big homies in the shoe, and by all, I mean from all factions. They were all on the same board as far as going on this hunger strike, so that way they could get decent rec and rec equipment, so on and so forth. There was a big list of demands that was sent out, and it was pretty much just to stand firm behind them, you know?
And how difficult it is to not eat.
Well, if you got family that look out for you and stuff like that, and you're getting packages and stuff like that, I mean, it's not that hard, because all we're doing is not eating state food, you know what I mean? We're saying no to the state trays and all that. But like if you got food inside your cell and stuff like that, you're eating that. We're not eating no state food at the time. Like for me at that point, because we were like around, I don't know if we were on lockdown for the riot or for what lockdown it was, because we kept going lockdown back and back. But at that point we were on lockdown, so I survived off just top ramen soup with peanut butter. That's all I ate, and that was 3 times a day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Now, what was the Centinela Centinela prison like? That was a level 3?
Yeah, that was a level 3.
Okay. Why'd you get sent there, and what was your experience there like?
Well, I ended up, after I was in Shafter, I ended up getting caught on the yard sharpening a knife. I'm out on the yard because inside the buildings, it was nothing but carpet. So the only way to get a point on any type of metal piece was outside on the yard. So I was outside on the yard trying to sharpen a piece, and one of the homies I was with kept looking up at the tower. So the tower radio down there, and one of the homies was running around. He's actually the one that handed me the metal piece to get it sharpened. He passed by, he's like, hey, the tower pointed over here. So we got up, we started walking, and they ended up, as we're walking, they ended up stopping us and putting us against the wall. They had 2 people against the wall already, so they're searching them too. Then it's the homie, and then it's me, and then another homie on this side. So they're searching them, patting them down. Then it's me and the homie next. I'm telling the homie right here to run, so that way he could distract them and I could tuck whatever I have, but he freezes. Now they're behind us. I end up running to the toilet, throw it in the toilet. I try to flush it, but it's a small circle, so it just ended up spinning. When I'm flushing, it just spins. I ended up getting tackled, and they sent me to the hole in New Corcoran. They ended up getting it dropped there, and I ended up getting kicked out to B yard right there in New Corcoran.
Okay. Now, you spoke about this before, being on the yard with Nortenos.
Yeah, that's actually the first yard ever that I ran into Nortenos right there.
Centinela?
No, New Corcoran, B yard.
Okay.
Yep.
Were you expecting that, or did that just surprise you?
Yeah, no, it surprised me. I didn't even know that they were there. To be honest, like, till then, I had, like, you hear of the word and the term and stuff like that, but they were like dinosaurs to me, you know? I had never seen them till then, you know what I mean?
Now, do you guys learn about the history between the Nortenos and the Southsiders, going all the way back to the shoe war in the 1960s, or it's just none of that stuff is even important?
Yeah, nah, it's out of sight, out of mind, to be honest.
Okay, they don't break down like how it started and why we're beefing.
Yeah,
with them.
no.
Okay, because you know there was a time in the 60s where they weren't truly tripping.
Yeah, for sure.
And then apparently there was this shoe war.
Yep.
In fact, some of the big homies were from the north.
Yep.
Some of them were.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I believe the one that I've seen that kind of touches on it is the Kilroy or something like that.
Oh, no, it might be, no, Kilroy's rest in peace right now. I interviewed Kilroy.
Well, they did a documentary about his life.
Yeah.
They kind of talk a little bit about it in that documentary.
Yeah, they probably did, but you know who speaks about it a lot is, what's his name? The guy from V&E.
Okay.
He's a dropout. He became a snitch, actually.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But he tells some incredible
stories about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, to be honest, yeah, I don't even know the history and all that.
Yeah, apparently it was a shoe war, and that happened in the 60s. But what do you guys are told? It's just like automatic rivals, right? That's it.
Yup. So pretty much I get there, right? And I'm in boxers. At first I'm handcuffed. Get there, boom, they unhandcuff me and they give me my box. So I'm walking through, they open the gate. I'm walking through the yard and there's a crowd of Hispanics coming my way. I'm thinking it's homies. So they're like, hey, you a homie? I'm like, yeah. I put my stuff down. As soon as they see, I got a 1-3 on my stomach. Mm-hmm. So as soon as they see the 1-3 on my stomach, they just turn around and walk away. Like, So I'm like, what the hell? Keep walking. I get to laundry. Then that's when the homies come up to me and pretty much let me know, oh yeah, those are Nortenos, but it's good. You know what I mean? Like, we're programming together. Everything's good. You know what I mean? And slowly but surely, that's when I started pretty much learning a little bit more about Nortenos and stuff like that, you know? Because it's not like if, say I'm chilling, right? I'm on the tier I'm right here chilling on the tier. And a Norteño walks by, right? If it's my neighbor or something, he could stand right here next to me and we could chop it up together, you know what I mean? Like there's a bunk of homies right here and there could be a bunk of Norteños right next to him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it was right there.
Did you ever become really friendly with a Norteño, or you just kept your space?
At that point in time right there, later on, like a few months later, I ended up like having that building to where I was running that building. So I had to, you know what I mean? I had to talk to everyone, be friendly with everyone. So yeah, there's a couple, you know what I mean, that I can say, you know what I mean, are my dogs, you know what I mean? Like till this day, if I was to see them, you know, like what's up, my G, give them a hug and stuff, you know? There's no animosity there.
Now, how come there are some Sureno neighborhoods in Northern California cities sprinkled around, but there are no Norteño neighborhoods down here in the South?
I would just say the demographic, you know what I mean? There's certain, how can I say, I guess back then, once started getting dangerous in Southern California, a lot of families would move out up north, and that's how little by little certain groups started going up there and just starting their own. Now, that's the only reason why I could feel like why slowly some groups made their way down that way. It was just people trying to leave the violence here, moved over there, not knowing that their kids were already far gone and just started something over there. And that's the only reason why, you know, because they were trying to leave from the violence and find somewhere better. And I don't see that happening, like people trying to leave from the Bay to come to LA type stuff and establish something like that. At least, I don't know, that's the only way I could think about it.
Now, while you were in prison, were there any yards that were general population, and then months later, maybe a year later, now that same yard is an SNY yard?
Yep.
And why does that happen?
Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, I would say probably just population control. Maybe one side's getting more populated than the other.
Where have you seen this happen at?
Actually, when I was right there on B yard, I ended up getting into some stuff on B yard, and I ended up getting removed from B yard. And I ended up going to the back, kept it solid. If you guys want to hear the whole thing, I touch about it on my channel, or I don't know if you want to get into it. It's up to you.
Go ahead.
All right, so pretty much when I was right there on B yard, there was a homie on Seco from bowling. He landed there and he ended up pretty much taking over the yard. And he ended up removing the homie Chango from Northside Bowling over some bullshit. There was somebody getting boo-bopped in the top shower. Boop, boop, boop. The Judas heard. Homeboy had a fierro, so he tried to run to the homie Chango, which was a lifer, on the 3 strikes. He had 2 strikes, and then he got pulled over with a gun and dope. They gave him his 3rd strike. So he knew he had action at going home. So he denied him. He like, nah, like, go somewhere else. So he used that as an excuse to remove the homie. So when he removed the homie, he had the homie snatch his chain, because he owed money. He was trying to like, hey, I'm gonna remove him and I'm also gonna take his chain to pay his drug debt. So he ended up having him removed, did all that. And then once the homie Chango ended up making it an issue, then he tried to say that I'm the one that took homeboy's chain. And before I even got a chance to like speak my piece, he moved on me himself. He ended up taking flight on me, and he convinced my bunkie to go with him. So him and my bunkie flighted me, pretty much. So I ended up going to the hole. I signed whatever I need to sign to go back. They didn't end up sending me back to B yard, but they sent me to F yard, which was a GP yard. So I get to F yard, pretty much explain myself, you know what I mean? I get there, I got a big old black eye. So I'm running into people that I know from other prisons, and they're all looking at me like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? What happened? So I had a lot of people that knew me, that knew my character, and they spoke up for me. You know what I mean? And I want to give a special shout out to the homie Güero from Loonies, because he's one of the people that actually spoke up and cleared that situation for me. So then I ended up, to clean that up, I ended up going on a mission. They ended up calling on my name. They asked me for a favor. Shout out to homie Zach from Colonia Bakers. He went on the mission with me. We ended up removing somebody, and I went to the back. I went to the back for like a week, in the cages, working out in the dog kennels, yard, all that. Right to the homies, like, hey, look, this, and this, because when I got removed, they went to ASU, and I guess ASU was overpopulated, so they sent me to Building E, which is an overflow hole. So I didn't get a chance to check in ASU and let the homies know, like, hey, this is my side or whatever. So when they asked me to do that mission, I was like, yeah, not only because of the way I landed on that yard, but also because I wanted to go clear my name, make sure that my name was cleared, you know, by myself in the back. So I go to the back, right to the homies, say, look, this happened, this. I end up clearing it up, and they end up kicking me back out to F yard. So once I get to F yard, a couple months go by, the homie Thumper from Artesia ends up moving me with him. I go to his cell, and as we're cellies, they end up raiding the cell, and they find the phone. They're getting him for it, and all of it. He ended up calling me as a witness to his 115 hearing. So the reason he called me as a witness is because he had a family visit coming up, and they had a lot of things in play to where we didn't want to mess up the family visit. So I was like, hey, you know what? Like, don't trip. Like I said, at that time, I didn't have kids, nothing. It was just me. Hey, I'll take that. Like, what? That's 90 days you can't get back. Who's going to take 3 months for somebody? You know what I mean? But that was the boy, and he kind of spoke up for me, too, during that situation. So I was like, hey, I got you. Call me as your witness. I'm going to tell him it's mine. Calls me as his witness. I go, and I tell him, like, hey, whatever you guys found, that's mine. They put it on me, so that's 90 days for me going on a mission, another 90 days for me taking that phone rap. Couple more months go by, some kush lands on the yard. I buy a 50 ball, I'm in the cell, roll up a little joint, roll up a little stick, right there smoking it with the homie B from Reseda. Shout out the homie B from Reseda. So I'm right there smoking with the homie B, and I guess it was so loud that the Judas smelt it, because not even halfway through the joint, you just hear, like, what the fuck? We look, fucking Judas running up the fucking stairs. Boom, kick the door open. Like, oh, I remember I just had what was left of the 50 ball right here in my waist. I grab it, throw it in my mouth real quick. Boom, trying to swallowed it. They get us, they search everything. They didn't find nothing. So the next day in the morning, well, they didn't find nothing. They took my TV, they took everything, all my appliances, because it was all floaters. I had bought it off the tier. None of it was like legit through my name. So they took everything. I want to say like at least $300 worth of appliances. Took everything. And then he tried to get me to pee in a bottle. He gave me the bottle. He was talking to the homie B. I got some water real quick in my mouth, turned around, I spit it in the bottle. I'm like, hey, here, I peed. He looks at me, no, you're supposed to do it in front of me, no. Like, hey, I peed already. Like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. I peed already. I can't piss no more. Yeah. So he ends up calling me in the morning, early in the morning. They're like, Garcia, report to the program office. Like, fuck. I go and I see the homie B right there too. He hit us with a bottle, so I ended up getting a dirty drug test. So those three is what made my points to rise and to go to Centinela. But to answer your question, as far as seeing a yard flip, before I left to Centinela, F yard ended up getting flipped. So little by little, they started shipping everybody out, and what they did is they had us on lockdown. And little by little, they would just started filling up all the other buildings to where now they had 2 buildings and we only had 1. But not once did they ever intermix us. or nothing. We were just on lockdown the whole time. I was sleeping right next to him. You know what I mean? Like, I slept on this bunk, he slept on the bunk right next to me. You know what I'm saying? And he was just a grimy individual, to be honest. Like, he was just grimy. Prior to that, me and him had got down, like, one-on-one, because he was trying to do grimy stuff like that, you know? Giving people fake numbers and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So.
But it seemed like you had to go out your way to clear your name.
Yeah.
But if this guy was already grimy and had this reputation, why do you feel like you had to work so hard to get your name good?
I want to say it wasn't, because once I landed on F Yard, right, it was the people that were there, like I said, they knew me, they knew my character. So I not once felt like, once I landed on F Yard, I not once felt that I was in danger or that anybody was a threat or anything like that, you know what I mean? Because I knew what was real. I would just say the way he did things, because it was like homeboy, he moved on homeboy today, tomorrow he's already moving on me. So it's like everything happened so quick, and he was honestly like under somebody real, you know what I mean? And really had like people that he could call versus, you know what I mean? 2 yards, you don't really run into too many people that are really, really plugged in or connected, you know? So it was just more of the fear.
So he was able to get away with a little bit more.
A little bit more than he normally would on another yard, you know?
Okay. When do you get released from prison, and how much time do you think you calculated exactly?
I ended up getting released on May 22nd, 2017. And if you calculate it, it's about 9 years and 4 months.
Okay, now initially, if you got sentenced to 10, you're supposed to get out in 8.5.
Yep.
Why did you end up doing a little bit more time than you were scheduled to do?
Just like I said, you know what I mean? Just being solid, always riding for the cause, you know what I mean? Like I said, my mentality when I went in there is I wanna make a name for myself. I wanna make my hood proud, you know? So that was the mentality I carried all the way through, you know?
Was there a point during your prison time that you wanted to elevate and keep elevating and keep elevating?
Yeah.
Or did you just want to get to a certain point and just stay there, you know?
To be honest, I think every young member, you know, that's at least my generation, you know, I can't speak for nowadays, you know, but I feel like every member, you know, that's what they aspire, you know. I'm not gonna lie, I would see homies get out when I was younger, and I would be like, damn, you know, like, I can't wait till the day when I'm fresh out, have all the females on me like that, you know, have all the homies giving me props like that, you know. It was just different times, you know what I mean?
Okay. I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned in one of your videos that you noticed that the Nortenos don't get high as much as some of your folks do.
Yeah.
When did you learn that, and what was your first thinking about that when you saw that?
My thoughts on it is just they run a tight program, you know what I mean? Like I said, I would chop it up with them, and you know, they can't get high, you know what I mean? If they get caught getting high, they're getting stabbed, you know what I mean? Straight up. And it's just vicious, you know, it's vicious. And to be honest, I don't want to just seem like I'm singling out the homies and nothing, but I want to say half of that population behind them walls, half of them are on some type of substance, man. That's just the way it is, you know?
I don't think it's any secret that the guys that run the whole Southsider program, the guys at the very, very top, most of them are on heroin. There's a nickname for what they call these guys. Pecatos, right?
Yeah, that's what they call like a heroin addict, OG heroin addict, yup.
I don't know if you want to get into that, but I mean, it is no secret, right? Yep. And you don't see that on with the Nortenos.
No, at least I don't, you know what I mean? Not that I've seen them, not that I've been aware of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting that you made that observation in one of your videos.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get out of prison in 2017. What was that feeling like? Your family, I don't, your brother, your sister, them seeing you free? What was that? Take me through that.
Man, I didn't sleep for 5 days. And at all, like, I nodded out here and there, like, don't get me wrong, like, well, 5 days and sober. I'm talking about sober, you know what I mean? Like, I'll pass out, like, say I drunk or something and I'll pass out, but as soon as I'm up, like, that wears off, I'm up. Like, I kept looking out the curtains, like, damn, like, for real, like, I'm out. Like, I remember when I first, cause my wife picked me up, so I remember when I first jumped in her car, we drove to a McDonald's. She's like, hey, I need to use the bathroom. And she's like, hey, get off and order while I use the bathroom. I'm sitting in the car, I'm like, huh? She like, get off and order the food while I go use the bathroom. I'm like, She's like, what? Like, I ain't getting off. I couldn't get out the car. Like, it had only been like an hour of me getting out and I couldn't, like, at first I didn't want to go out to public. I remember they had told me like, hey, let's all go to the Dodger game. Like, what? Even worse. Like, I don't know, it was weird. Like, it was surreal.
What was about?
I think it was just shock, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, I was just, and I feel like anybody that's ever been busted and you're like a real one, like a really out here, like, my main fear was that something was gonna pop up. Like, I'm gonna go and like, we found your DNA on this, or we got you for this other body, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I think a little bit of that, like, just like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it that I was out, you know? For real.
That's like that's a crazy mental stress to have, to be constantly thinking that. That's a level of paranoia.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
In the last 7 years, how have you coped with that, and how are you feeling today?
Now, honestly, I'm better, you know what I mean? I think my kids helped that, you know? My kids are the ones that helped me. Like, at first I was numb to a lot of stuff, you know? So much time, you gotta numb yourself, you know? So many losses and stuff like that, so I feel like at first I was probably just like a shell of myself, you know? And then now it's like I'm more in tune with myself and, you know what I mean, just everything.
What was it like seeing your sister, who's now probably about 18 or 19? She's like a young woman now.
Yeah.
And she was a little girl when you left. What was that like, seeing her?
That was crazy. That was crazy. As soon as she seen me too, I went and picked her up. I went and picked her up with my sister and my brother. We went and picked her up from work. And as soon as she seen me, the first thing she told me was like, she's like, quería ser cholo. Like, what? She like, you wanted to be a gangster. That's the first thing she told me, like, quería ser cholo. Like, look at you, my cholo, you know, my pelon. I was like, man, like, just gave her a hug and stuff, you know? But that's the first thing she told me, though.
Did you get many visits from her in prison?
I
guess when you're out of state, you're not really getting any visits. Huh?
Yeah, no. They would go see me when I was in juvenile hall and stuff like that. But once I ended up going out of state, the only one that would see me when I came back was my wife, and shout out Big Saint. He ended up going to see me. He went to see me a few times, but I didn't end up seeing my mom or any of them until I got out. I think I went like almost 7 years without seeing them.
And what did your mom, what was the first conversation like with your mom in 2017?
Just grateful, you know what I mean? Honestly, she was just grateful to finally have all her kids, you know what I mean? Like, at the dinner table for holidays and stuff like that. I want to say she was just thankful, you know what I mean?
Were you confident in 2017 that you were never going to go back to prison? How did that work out for you?
I only lasted 2.5 months.
Whew.
I got out May 17. I caught another case August 6.
Okay, now when you got out, was your mentality like, I'm not messing around, I got my wife,
yeah,
my family's here?
As soon as I got out, that same day, they had, at my mom's pad, it was like a whole gangster party. Shout out to homie G, he was in the middle of the street, hopping at 6'4". It was a straight gangster party, and I just remember the homies were right there, and you know, I want to shout out my boy Sicko, rest in peace, my boy Agustin Jorge, man. But that was my dog, and he got taken away from me while I was busted. So I just remember talking to the homies, and shout out my homeboy Speedy, man. I just remember the homie Speedy pulled me aside and he gave me a hug, and he was like, hey bro, like, just chill, you know what I mean? Like, do your family thing, homie, do your life, like, worry about yourself, you know what I mean? Like, you already did what you did, homie, like, much love, much respect, but do what you gotta do to progress in life, you know what I'm saying? And I just remember telling him, like, nah, like, they took my dog, whoa, whoa. And he just, pretty much, he got to me, you know? He talked to me and he got to me that day, you know? And because of him, I was honestly, like, trying to do good. I was working, everything, like, everything that happened that day that I got busted was just over me being nice and giving homeboy a ride, because the homie I was with, he wasn't even from the hood. Like, I ended up catching a case for somebody from another hood, you know what I mean? The homies were even mad at me, like damn, like, you know, we told you to chill, you know what I mean?
So briefly talk about what happened 2 months later that caused you to end up going back to
So I was living with my wife in an apartment complex, and I ended up meeting the homie Kid from Venice right there. And we'd just blaze. I'll come out of work and I'll just blaze with him. So I'm chilling. It's Sunday. We're about to go to the movies. My wife just got home from work. She's jumping in the shower, getting ready. He calls me like, hey, do me a favor, like, give me a ride to Venice. I need to go pick up some money. This was like around August, you know what I mean? August is like, September is back to school, you know what I mean? So he's like, hey, I need to go pick up some money to go buy some school supplies for his girl's kids, the girl that he was living there with. So once he said the kids, he got me, you know? So I gave him a ride. We go to Venice. We're coming back on Venice and Sepulveda. I'm going down Venice. I make a right on Sepulveda. Well, actually, I'm waiting at the light. The cops coming down Sepulveda. I'm waiting. He keeps going. As soon as I turn, he busts a bitch, then busts another bitch and gets behind me. As soon as he gets behind me, I'm pulling over because he already blurted me. As soon as I'm pulling over, homeboy starts literally almost crying in my passenger seat, like, nah, bro, I'm on the run for a murder case, this and that. And he's like, and I picked up this burner. Like, what? As soon as he said that, not even the burner, just him saying that he was running for a murder case, it just, I'm fresh out. In there, rule number one is you don't leave a homie unstuck. Anytime a homie needs help or anything, you don't leave a homie unstuck. So what do? I gas it. End up hitting a couple corners. I'm trying to lose them. I'm trying to tell homeboy to run. I'm on a high control GPS. Like, where do I think I'm going? I'm not going nowhere. I have a GPS on my ankle, you know what I mean? So I'm going, trying to hit a couple corners. I end up wrecking and end up getting busted. The crazy part, right? The crazy part about it, that's why y'all need to watch out who you guys look out for. Homeboy wasn't even on the run for a murder case. He was on the run for beating up his baby mama. That's what he was on the run for. So I ended up wrecking my car, catching a new case, 2 months fresh out of doing 10 years for somebody that was trying to run, couldn't man up to going and fighting a domestic violence case. He only did 90 days fucking violation. He got a 90-day violation. I got a whole new case. And I wrecked my car. I had a 2006 black on black Charger, like clean too. I only had it a week. I got it on Sunday. I wrecked it the following Sunday.
And how much time did you end up having to take on that brand new case?
I ended up taking a deal for 32 months with 80. They gave me 32 months with 80%. So they pretty much gave me, because it's 16 months. If you look up the case, it's 16 months, but they doubled me up. So I ended up doing like 22 months.
So if I do my math correct, you get out in early 2020.
Yeah, February 2020.
Man, so you lost almost two and a half, almost 3 more years.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, my daughter was already 2 when I came out. She was about to turn 2. No. Yeah, she was already 2.
So did you have a little bit of animosity with the homie from Venice? Because
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah. Don't ever let me catch you, my G. I need that.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna ask, what's the conversation been with him since you've?
I haven't seen him. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't live right there no more, you know what I mean? And I moved since then and stuff like that.
Do you
yeah, I
think
haven't seen him.
you still want that, even though
Yeah,
that might end up giving you another year?
Yeah,
2
nah,
years,
I'm
right?
over it. I'm over it. I'm just
Yeah.
messing with y'all, you know? It's just a little heat of the moment, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Nah, it's just,
What did
you
your
know,
wife
it comes
say-
with it.
What was your wife's reaction? Because you just came home after all that time, and then you're going right back for almost 3 more years.
That's why I got married. To be honest, that's why I got married. I got married inside prison. So that way we could have conjugals and all that. You know what I
And
mean?
you're still with the same woman?
Yeah.
That's pretty rare, or is it common, you think? Because I know a lot of guys marry just so they can have that hookup.
Yeah.
But when they come home and they're free, they move on.
Yeah, I think it depends, you know?
Yeah.
It depends on the individual. Like, I've always been like a real loyal and real, you know? Like, that's just me. Like, if somebody looks out for me and stuff like that, like, I'm going to ride with you. If you show me some type of love and that you got me, I got you full-fledged, you know what I mean? That's why I'm still here till this day, you know?
So your wife was with you before you got out on your first case.
Yeah. She did the last 3 years with me.
And then she's got to deal with this new case. She
Yeah.
must have been frustrated.
Oh,
huh?
yeah. Yeah, she was. She ended up, she bailed me out and everything, you know what I mean? Like, I ended up, I was busted for like 4 days, and then my PO lifted the hold, so she bailed me out, and I fought it from the streets. I turned myself in on April 2nd of 2018, and I got out February like 12th of 2020.
And when you went in, what kind of yards did the yards change?
Yeah, I believe, shoot, I was scared, you know what I mean? Because right before I got out, that's when they were doing all that 50-50 stuff, you know what I mean? Now I'm pretty sure, I think all level 2s are pretty much like that, you know what I mean? I just remember right there, they would just say, like, look, right now this is our yard, because there was already yards right there in that prison that were already bad. It was only 2 good solid yards. It was E and F. So we was just like, if any bus comes, they bring anybody of them right there, it's on site, you know what I mean? As soon as they step foot right there, it's on site. It don't matter who's there, what you gotta do, you know what I mean? It's on site.
Now, a lot of these guys that are on these 50-50 yards, they start their own gangs. Did you ever have to bump into any of these guys from these PC gangs, such as I guess the 2-5ers are the biggest of all the PC gangs. Are there any times where you're actually clashing or get an opportunity to be face to face with some of these guys?
Everywhere I've been at, it hasn't been like that. The only place I can say that we've ever like crossed paths was in Chino. In Chino, like we'll be going out to yard, and then they'll have them like in like the cages for medical or something like that, and they'll try to wolf and stuff like that. But the homies, like, that's one thing, you can't let them bait you, because if they're yelling at you and you let them get to you and you start yelling back, you're in trouble, because we don't even acknowledge them, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they not even there, like.
Because it's almost treating them as an equal.
Yeah.
Right?
Unless them doors are cracked and you could fight, then yeah, flight them. But as far as going back and forth like that, nah, you get beat up for something like that, you know?
Yeah. So let me ask you, all the time that you did you ever roll it up? Did you ever PC, or did you ever drop out during both sentences?
Yeah, nah, I've always kept it solid, you know what I mean? And that's why I'm still here to this day, you know what I'm saying?
Now, how important is that for you?
I feel like that's very important, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta stay solid regardless of whatever, you know? You know what you signed up for, you know what comes with it, so, you know what I mean? You gotta just ride it out.
Now, I spoke to a lot of Southsiders that have dropped out, and their excuse has always been that the politics was unfair. I was getting politicked on unfairly, similar like you were getting politicked on for a chain that you didn't even take.
Yeah.
What do you think about guys that have gone through something similar that you went through? They got politicked on, but maybe they weren't able to get their word right, get their self right the way you did.
Man, I would say just do whatever you can do as far as with what you have, you know what I mean? There's other ways to go about it, like flight someone, you know what I mean? They talking to you wrong, you feel like this, hey, flight them. Go explain yourself in the back to where now, if you feel like you're not getting fair judgment with who's there, try to find a way to flight someone or whatever. Just do what you, oh, that's a tough one, but what I'm trying to get at is there's ways around it, you know what I mean? Just remain solid, and it's not like they're gonna take your life or anything like that, you know what I mean? Just lick your wounds and all that, and you'll be all right.
I guess the worst thing is just getting boo-bopped, right?
Yep.
And some people don't even want to go through that?
I guess, you know what I mean? I guess.
Yeah. So when you came home in early 2020, what did you have to say to your wife, to your family? Because now you've got almost, like 12 and a half? What's the total amount of time you've done?
I haven't calculated that.
It seems like it's like
Nine
somewhere
in
between 12 and 13.
Somewhere
right?
around there, yup, like 12, 13, somewhere around there. I always say 12.
Yeah.
Yup. Somewhere around there.
I
would
doubt
just
your
say-
wife wants to see you doing any more time.
Oh, nah, she told me straight up. She's like, this was, and just me being like transparent with you, you know what I mean? This is what she told me prior to me getting out. She like, look, you got 3 months. You got 3 months to show me that you're gonna be good. You really gonna focus on your family. And you know what I mean? She's like, if not, then you're gonna have to figure something out, you know? I can't keep doing this, you know what I mean? She did give me that ultimatum, and to be honest, like I said, I think that's what made me react and stuff like that. I wasn't just living for me no more, you know? I got a family, I got kids.
Now, there's a lot of, okay, let me ask you this. You decided to start going on YouTube, basically telling your stories
Yeah.
in various videos. What inspired that?
I just felt there was a lack of our stories, you know what I mean? You have a lot, well, now there's more than there was. I started my channel in 2021, like late 2021. But at that time, I felt like there was a lot of different prison channels and stuff that was coming out, and they were speaking on us, Southsiders this, Sureños this, but I just feel like we weren't getting represented right. Like, and the only reason why people can speak so freely is because they ain't no real homies actually sharing our stories and our side of things. But the main thing was the WAC 100 and Tres. At the time, WAC 100 had said something to the extent of blacks and Mexicans have been at war for 20 years behind the walls and this and that. And that's not the case. Yeah, there's little incidents that happen here and there, but for the most part, it's more respect behind them walls than anything, you know? So I just felt like I said, you know, a lot of people were speaking on us, but it wasn't the right representation or the right lens, you know what I mean?
Is there anyone in particular online that you watch and you kind of like what they do?
As far as like another content creator,
Yeah.
I rarely watch other people, to be honest. I'm always out and about. I got my YouTube channel, I got my job, and then I run a delivery service, a bud delivery service, so I'm always on the move. But I watch you guys, I watch StreetTV, you know what I mean? No Jumper, Hood Stocks, Hater World, John Diesel, shout out John Diesel.
You ever met the guy from Anaheim? I think his name is Moises Cuevas.
No, I haven't.
Like
I've
the
seen him.
Anaheim
I've
Texas?
seen him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him. I've seen him. He does a lot of like inspirational stuff and like
Yeah.
workouts. Yeah, I've seen him.
He gives his whole prison workout routine.
Yeah, yup.
But you know what? I've noticed there are a lot of Southsiders online, but not too many of them that are from like this part of the city.
Yeah.
They're always like he's from Anaheim. Blue Devil's from wherever he's from.
Yep. No,
Swifty
yeah, that's
Blue
facts.
is from
Paramount.
You know, they're always.
No, yeah, that's facts. That's facts. And that's why, like I said, you know what I mean? Adam, you watching this, you need to get me on No Jumper, man. You've had all the Bloods up there from the city. You even had White John up there. Like, come on, White John. You need to have Santo Gee up there, man, and get a real story from Inglewood, from a real one.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, I think you either you met Munchie B from Inglewood, because right now Munchie B he's going viral. He's a top Inglewood representative right now.
Yep.
Did you ever cross paths with Munchie B?
I used to see Munchie B right here at this park all the time. Like I said, when you go up the parking lot up where the pool's at, that used to number red. You used to drive up and see number red right there. That was straight CPF, Inglewood family all day. And back then, we was tight. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about real tight. Like I said, anybody will pull up, Lennoxes will pull up anybody. If we don't dump at them, they'll dump at them type stuff. Like, any of their enemies pull up, same thing. Like, you got us, we got you. So back then, I used to see them all up and down here. I want to say like around Munchie's generation, that's when like stuff started being a little friction. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, but from my aspect, right, from my side of things, at that time, to our understanding, I think Inglewood family pushed up on Queen Street and Neighborhood Park Rue and made a few of them join Inglewood family. So we were cool with Inglewood family, but once some Neighborhood Park Rues and some Queen Streets joined family, since we beefed it with them, they brought that beef to families. Cause now they're saying, fuck the hood, and they're saying Inglewood family. You know what I mean? So that's what kind of created that little friction, you know what I mean? But yeah, I remember I told the story about Munchie B and his homies and stuff. And this is all alleged, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're right there on Stepney. It's me, it's the homie Chris, it's the homie Lil Sniper, and it's his brother. We're right there chilling. I remember the homie Lil Sniper had came through and he was like, hey, I got some bud. He had it in his hand. He rolled up on the bike. He was on the bike and he had the bud like this, like the bud out, but he was holding it. So he's like, hey, I got this bud. And we're right there like, what? Look at it. Next thing you know, a car pulls up. Fools hop out. It was old boy and a couple of other ones hopped out. What's up? Where y'all from? Started dissing the hood and everything. And at that time, we were from Hyde Park. We weren't from the hood. I was probably like 14, 15. I didn't get put on the hood till I was 16. So, boom, they come, start dissing, and they see the weed. The homies right there, you know, and they see the weed, they just snatch it. But they had a strap. Like, I was on a bike too, and I jumped off the bike. And as soon as I got off the bike, I just remember homeboy went straight put the strap straight to my face. Cause I got off the bike. He's like, what, you getting bold? Cause I got off the bike. Like, I just remember I was like, and as soon as I did that, the homie ran. He ran. And as soon as he ran, I don't know if they thought he was going to get a gun or something, but as soon as he ran, they were like, hey, let's go. They jumped in the car and they took off. But yeah,
so
that
allegedly,
was. Mm-hmm.
That was Munchie B.
That was, yeah, and his homeboys.
Was he in the head of the pack or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, like, It kind of, I don't know if it's true that he used to be from NHP or that he kicked it with NHP before he was from Inglewood family, but I do know that he was one of the first ones out there dissing the hood, banging families, you know what I mean? And that's what kind of created the friction. So it wasn't pleasant, I'm gonna be real, it wasn't pleasant. The times we crossed paths, it wasn't pleasant, it was on some beef shit, but you know what I mean? It is what it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, he's been through what he's been through.
Yeah, facts. I'm not, I done my share of things too, you know what I mean? So that's why, you know what I mean? It comes with it,
hey,
you know what I mean?
It would be amazing to get you and Munchie B maybe on a podcast episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Chopping it up as being, Inglewood representatives.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah. What would you like to say before we wrap it up? Oh, let me ask you about this train, because when you came home, I guess this was still under construction when you came home, right? Because it just opened up. When did this train open up?
Barely, like, hasn't even been a full year, I think.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that long.
Yeah, but those tracks used to be there.
Yeah,
back
the
in
track's
day.
been there. Yeah, there used to be a train that used to go by back in the day. Yup.
I think that train used to go down all the way down Slauson too, and then come up here.
Yeah.
This is Florence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that. Like I said, I've been living right here on this side my whole life, you know what I mean? And I'm still here, you know what I mean? My kids go to school in the Inglewood district, so all I'm doing, man, is trying to share my story, you know what I mean? You don't see too many homies share our stories, and I'm just trying to better my community, you know what I mean? Best believe as long as I go up, I'm gonna give it right back to my community, you know what I mean? That's why I'm still here.
Now, I did an interview with G Half from Neighborhood Piru. I think he's probably a little bit older than you, but he talks about before he got put on the NHP, he was hanging out with the I-13s.
Yeah.
He told this whole story about those were his homies first.
Yeah.
And then when he eventually got
Who's
put on
you talking about Half Pint or who?
Yeah, well, yeah, Half Pint, G Half Pint.
Okay, yeah. I've seen a little bit of his stuff.
Yeah.
He speaks on it.
He's 89 on up on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, I seen some of his stuff.
Yeah.
He spoke on it, how he, back then, he's all like, man, we used to chill with the I-13s, man, like straight up. He's all like, shit, a lot of the homies got tattoos that they done got from the I-13s type stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was like that.
Now, have you ever heard any stories from some of your OGs, some of your veteranos that are like maybe 45 and up, that you said, hey, those are the homies when we were young?
Yeah.
Like before the division happened?
Yeah. I got one of the homies, he tats, you know what I mean? I remember him telling me stories about that. He tatted on a couple of neighborhood Parus, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's the situation now? Back in December of 2019, January of 2020, I guess you weren't home yet.
Mm-hmm.
There was a truce. Some I-13s were coming to the table, some Queen Streets, some NHPs, and I happened to be fortunate to participate
For sure.
and witness it all. And they agreed to pretty much, be cool again.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about that when you came home?
Yeah.
You heard about that? Tell me what you heard about.
It was like a little division, you know? Some people hurt, don't want peace, and some people are like, nah, my kids go to school here, my kids walk these streets, like, we need it to be peace, you know what I mean? So just a little bit of that, you know? Some people have this input, some people have this input. The way I always like to say is it's up to whoever's out there, you know? It's up to whoever's really out there frontlining, you know what I mean? It's their decision, however they feel, you know?
And at the time, on the Latino side, there was a big homie that was in prison kind of orchestrating that this is what it's going to be. In fact, there was also some meetings for the whole West Los, including Lennox, everyone to come together over here. I don't know if you ever got wind of that.
Yeah. I was still busted at that time, but yeah, I remember they had a couple right here in this park.
Yeah. What's your overall thought of trucing up and peace treating with your former enemy?
My thought of it now, you know what I mean? Like I said, I look at it as far as my kids, you know what I mean? The future. I think that's the way to go, you know what I mean? Look at history. What has history taught us? You know what I mean? All war don't last forever. You know what I'm saying? There comes a time where you have to come to the table and just have peace. You know what I mean? War is just gonna create loss, pain, and it's just gonna bring you down. You know what I mean? I feel like if we all work together, have everything peaceful, man, we all just gonna go up. You know what I mean?
Okay, Santo Gee, I want to thank you for this incredible interview.
Yes, sir.
I think we pretty much covered like almost everything that I had here. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up? Anything you'd like to say? Anyone you'd like to shout out?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, man, I just want to appreciate everyone that tapped in and watched this interview, man. I'm just trying to share our stories, real life, real raw and uncut, man. I ain't sugarcoating nothing. I'm being transparent with you guys, telling you guys exactly how everything is. And I appreciate you guys. Shout out Killer Kush. Shout out Frenchy Volcanoes. Shout out Cali Herbs Los Angeles. And shout out Hadar Extracts, man. Salute to all the homies doing life and all the homies dead, man. You're gone but never be forgotten. Rest in peace, Sicko. Rest in peace, Batman. Rest in peace, Stranger. Rest in peace, Fat Boy. Rest in peace, all the fallen homies, man.
Necio?
Rest in peace, Necio, for sure. Batman, if I didn't say Batman, rest in peace, Batman.
Last question.
Rest in peace, Gotti.
Icon made a statement about he wasn't feeling the Kendrick Lamar thing, the whole pop-up event. He felt that Mexicans were not included the way they should have been included. A lot of blacks were offended by that because they're saying, well, you don't include us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reaction to what Icon said?
Icon, none but love and respect, G, but you speaking out your ass with that, my G. Like, you should have thought about it. And I think he corrected himself. He thought it was something else, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, come on now. That's like pretty much Cinco de Mayo and we throwing a big old thing and they're like, oh, well, you didn't include no blacks in Cinco de Mayo. Like, bro, like, come on, G. I think he knows what it is. He's laughing his ass off right now. He's kicking himself in the ass right now, you know what I mean?
Well, he admitted that he was unaware of Juneteenth and how that was a celebration of being emancipated from slavery.
Yeah.
He said he didn't know about Juneteenth. And I guess maybe there are a lot of people that didn't know about Juneteenth. Are you aware of Juneteenth?
Yeah, but then you got to think about the demographic. He's from East LA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think they have, like, you know how right here they have the Black History celebrations and stuff on Market Street and all that every year, you know what I mean? I don't think they have nothing like that over there. So maybe that can be a role into it, you know what I mean? That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah. Shout out to Icon.
Yeah, shout out to Icon.
We're going to try to get him on the podcast. We're going to see if he'll pull up. But, all right, man. Santo Gee.
Sir.
Thanks for
Appreciate
popping
you
up
guys.
on StreetTV.
Get it. Sir.
And tell us where they can find your YouTube channel to tap in with you.
Go follow me at Santo Gee. That's SANTO space GEE space Productions. That's Santo Gee Productions. I got over 1,000 videos, stories. If you feel like you heard something right now and you want to know more, I guarantee you I done already touched on it on my channel. Appreciate y'all.